Hey, love. Welcome to No Matcha, No Mama, the podcast where we pour a little matcha and a whole lot of truth. Each week, I sit down with someone I admire, founders, healers, creatives, and friends, and we sip a matcha I've made just for them based on what they love. I like to do everything with intention, from the ingredients in your cup to the conversations that we have. And the show is more than just about talking. It's about exploring how we can truly thrive through all the mess and magic of being human. Here we start with matcha because how we start matters. All right. So today's guest is my incredible acupuncturist, Sarah Norvilas. She runs her own practice, Meraki Wellness, and I first started seeing her during a time when I was really uncomfortable with my hormones and my cycle was totally out of sync. And you really made a period of the month become way more manageable. And I'm so grateful for you. And so I'm really happy to have you here. So thank you for being with us.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So I make matcha every morning. It's part of my ritual. So I made you one.
Yeah.
And I know that you've never had matcha before, which is funny.
I know. I typically don't drink caffeine at all. So we're going to see what happens.
Why don't you drink caffeine?
Do you know, it's never really agreed with me. I know matcha is like a lower dose than caffeine would normally be. The coffee, I think, is what people used to go to, obviously, back in the day. And the taste never did anything for me. I remember my dad used to drink like Folgers, like that dark roast, acidic, horrific.
Yeah.
And as a child following him around, took a sip one day out of this like thermos that he had. And I think it just killed it for me forever. And I never got as I got older, I had coffee a couple times in college and I never felt awake the way that people said it did it for it. I got shaky. I felt like a little bit nauseous and out of my body.
It made you feel gross.
Did not make me feel great. And so I've just gone over to tea. Tea is like my ritual. It's my favorite thing. And so we're going to see how it goes today.
Oh, I was going to ask, what is your ritual in the morning that helps you start your day?
Yeah, it's pretty big. But the ritual that grounds me is tea. I have an apothecary at my house.
Ooh.
There's probably like 150 herbs.
Oh my goodness.
It's wild. It's my favorite thing. It's like a little Harry Potter room in my house.
Where is it? You have a room?
There's an upstairs in my house that kind of is a little bit of a healing space. So it's got
so
my red
cool.
light and it's got my herbs and it's got
Do you meditate in there?
I do everything in there when I can. Yeah.
That's awesome.
And so when I started really getting into herbal medicine, Chinese herbs were obviously part of my teaching. And then I did a training in folk herbal medicine a couple of years ago and just fell in love with it. And so before I go to sleep at night, I just put a little bit of consciousness around what I think I'm going to need for the next day. And so I'll do an overnight infusion. I'll blend.
Awesome.
And then I strain
Is it different every day?
It's different every day. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So
that's your like nightly ritual too.
It is. Yeah. It's
morning
it's the
and
last
night
thing I do before I go to bed. Yeah.
Wow.
And I think too, so often, I don't know if this is true for you, before I go to bed, I have just like massive feelings of how I'm going to conquer the morning sometimes.
Yeah.
And you wake up and that doesn't always happen.
No.
And so that was my way of making sure that I was giving a little bit of love to myself that was happening regardless, because I could get up, I could strain it. I would either go upstairs into my space or get back in bed and just take it as my few minutes to kind of ground and be with myself.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love that so much. I still can't get over this apothecary room. If I had one of those, I think I would be in heaven.
It's the most fun. I think when you learn herbs in a way that it's not just kind of like, oh, I like the flavor of this. When you really understand what they do to the body, it sounds weird, but they become kind of like little friends that you just have this personal relationship with. And
but it's almost like super like witchy and cool too. Like when I think of like Practical Magic, the movie, and how they had all of those things that they mixed together for their potions.
Totally. And the woman that I learned it from, so obviously part of my training was in Chinese herbal medicine, but it was taught in a bit of a Western way. You were taught from this big materia medica, and they're giving you doses and they're giving you prescriptions and things that are indicated with Western medicine. And then I met this woman, Marisha, who lives up in Topanga, and she it's called the School of the Sacred Wild. And they teach kind of folk herbal medicine. She calls it a coven. Basically, it's these very witchy women who are really in sync with the earth and herbal plant medicine. And she teaches this kind of new way of learning to understand plants. And so I studied under her, and it was really magical.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. So is that how you got into acupuncture? Did you decide beforehand to get into acupuncture? Just tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so acupuncture was a pivot in my 20s. I think it definitely found me. I initially went to school for communications and public relations. And
very
I knew
different.
Very early on that I had chosen wildly incorrect. I think asking someone at 18 what they want to do with the rest of their life is just wild. I think most people have no idea, and you just pick something because you have to pick something. And I remember I had, done some work with the sports team, and I had worked for a studio. And I just remember being in my early 20s thinking, this is not it. Like, I know that this is not it for me. And I knew there was a pivot, and I didn't know what the pivot was. And I just spent a couple of months kind of talking to whatever we talk to that's bigger than us, going like, just show me the path. I know there's a path. Show me the path. And in my mid-20s, I, not long after that, ended up herniating a disc in my low back. Was just coughing, and the disc went out.
Ouch.
And it was doing all the things that you would normally do, seeing my chiropractic, and I was going to physical therapy, and nothing was moving it. And it was really debilitating. And I remember being 6 months in thinking, am I going to go on disability at 25? Like, this is not the path. And I went to sleep one night and I had a dream that I saw an acupuncturist, and I had never thought of it. I had never considered it. I had never been exposed to it. And I don't know where you are with dreams. I have a very kind of grounded part of my life and a very, very spiritual, kind of exists between linear and nonlinear realms often. But to me, there are dreams, and then there are dreams that are bigger than dreams. Like there's like an extra sensory component. There's a lot more tactile. Like you can feel things more. Like there's more just sensory input. So it was one of those dreams that I couldn't really shake the next day. And I did a Google search, and there was a clinic 5 minutes from my house. And I went, and within 2 treatments, I was almost 100%, and just became really fascinated. Not only, I think, with the medicine, but when you go into a school for Chinese medicine for treatment, a lot of the people who are supervising are in their 70s and 80s. So these beautifully lineaged people with all of this wisdom and just all of this nurturing. And I remember this older women sitting in front of me and holding my hand and saying, but how are you? Like, truly, how are you? And I just remember thinking, like, this is how you're supposed to take care of people. Like, not this, you check in with your doctor once every 6 months, and it's very, inconsistent and informal. And I just fell in love with it. And I sat on it for almost a year because I knew that it was going to be 5 years of going back to school. And I knew there were going to be things that I was going to give up if I was going to do that. But I went, and it was 16 years ago, I think, 15 or 16. And here we are.
So then where did you study?
I studied at Emperor's College, which just closed last month. They've been open for almost 40 years. It's in Santa Monica. Did my undergrad at the University of Maryland, did my master's at Emperor's, and then they have clinical rotations there. And at the time, I also did clinical rotations at UCLA's East West Medical Center.
Wow. So that first, your dream initiated the one and everything. And then you had acupuncture, and you're like, wow, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I've had dreams where people who have passed away have visited me, where it feels,
where you know that it's them. Yeah. It's not just a dream. Yeah.
But I don't think I've ever had that type of vision dream.
I think it comes to people in different ways. Yeah. I've gotten kind of internal hits throughout my life.
Oh, same.
To the point that I just know, we pay attention to these things regardless of how wild they are or how big they happen to be. And so it was one of those things that I've just learned to trust that about myself over life, that even if it feels uncomfortable, I tend to do it anyway. And here we are.
So after you went to school, did you have a mentor that helped guide you at all?
Not immediately. Those people came in much later.
Okay.
I mean, most people just wrap up school and you just get kind of released back into the world. I had been in LA for about 10 years at that point. And so I knew a lot of people, and I had been telling everyone that I knew that I was treating. And I ended up going into my chiropractor's office at the time to start my practice. And so it built really quickly without having to do a lot of kind of like the push and pull. I always knew that I was going to work for myself. There was never kind of the consciousness to go work for someone else. Mm-hmm. The mentors kind of came, not even in Eastern medicine, in a lot of different ways later down the line when I was kind of seeking just for bigger tools to learn.
There was just a flow.
Yeah, always. Always.
Well, because you were supposed to be on the path. So things just become easier and inspiring, and it just comes at you because you're attracting the energy.
Yeah. Well, and the path can change. And I think that's different for people. Some people feel very comfortable with the idea that like you do the thing that you do for however many years that you do it, and that's the path. And I feel that there's a pivot coming soon in my life as well. There's another one. And I don't think that I'll step away from this fully, but I know that there's going to be
something bigger.
Yeah. Yeah, it's coming.
Do you remember your first solo session with a patient? Do you remember your first solo session with a patient? I can't say this correctly.
With a patient, yeah.
Do you remember your first solo session with a patient and what was going through your mind that day?
Do you know what you've done? I remember the first time I put a needle into my own body. That was like a very cathartic moment in school. And I remember you have to needle yourself for like months before you can needle others, and then a year or two before you can see patients. And so at that point, I had been putting needles in friends and everyone else who would let me.
Okay, so then what was your experience putting a needle into someone else for the first time besides yourself, since you had to do that first?
It was a little, I don't know if it was scary. I just remember thinking how much trust there had to be in that connection. I think inherently people are scared of needles.
Yeah.
And even though the people that we were putting needles into were other students, people that we were working with, there is a tremendous amount of trust. There's a tremendous amount of wanting to be conscious about your own energy and how you interact with people. And for me with Eastern medicine, my energy matters as much as what the needles are going to do when they're in your body, because everything is a transfer of that. So it just felt like this really beautiful, sacred kind of exchange that we were having.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it still feels like that.
Still when you do it now.
Yeah.
Well, that's incredible.
Yeah.
That must be a really good feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a patient story that stayed with you because it surprised you or transformed you too?
I mean, there have been so many, Dina, honestly.
It's hard to come across one.
I just think there's such a big piece of this medicine that you can really root into with Western, and you can explain it. And then there's a piece of this medicine that is truly like magic. And I don't use that word lightly. Like it's truly magical, where I've watched people not be able to walk in the office and you put a needle in their hand and their entire back releases. Or there's big aspect of Eastern medicine that some people practice, but a lot of people don't. And it's a little esoteric based, where you are moving people through stages in life and things that they're trying to overcome. And I've watched people just shift.
Like emotional releases.
Everything, emotional releases, and, moving through transitions and grief, and the amount of texts I get next day being like, I cannot believe that this is the first time I woke up not with this behavior, not with this feeling in my body. It's just so, so special.
That's awesome. And so has your relationship with your own body changed through doing work with other people's? I'm sure it has.
Yeah, and continues to.
Yeah.
I think going back to the idea that what is happening in my own body is in a way transitioned into other people, I think makes me really clear on how I'm walking into work. I have a couple of times in the last few years canceled appointments because people I know were coming in with things that were really tender. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't in a place to ground that, and I wasn't going to kind of transition that. That doesn't happen that often, but it's happened a few times.
Well, it's good that you listen to yourself, though, because you don't want to be triggered in a session.
100%. And I think it's just made me really conscious of how I show up and how I care for myself before I go into treatment, and making sure I'm grounded and nourished and just really present before kind of having anyone get on a table.
So what does healing really mean to you?
Trying to think of which way I can kind of present it from, because we talked for a moment about that I'm just coming through kind of my own health journey, we'll call it, in the last few years. I think there's something about healing for me. I mean, we're talking healing in the bigger sense that requires a lot of surrender. And maybe because I treat patients I have a lot of patients who are coming in with very chronic things, and a lot of women who are going through fertility treatments, a lot of women's health, and a lot of autoimmunity and things of that nature, that for me, at least in my own journey with healing, there's an amount of surrender that I think changes everything. I think when people are in a health journey, there's often a lot of kind of fighting against what is, if you will. I know for me, when I was first diagnosed in my own health journey, there was this constant, if I'm being really honest, like being really angry around what was happening and being really frustrated that I couldn't keep my body in a way that I wanted it to and it wasn't behaving. And it was a couple of months of doing that. And I woke up one day and I remember thinking, like, I can't live being frustrated about this anymore. So is there a way where I can be in full surrender with what's happening? Like, if nothing ever changes and it looks like this all the time, can I be fully at surrender with this? And also fully committed to supporting my body as much as I can so that I can still go to dinner with friends and be present and be, grateful for watching a sunrise or be able to like laugh hysterically while these other things are happening. And so that, I think, with patients, I hear all the time that people are just fighting against their body rather than just trying to be connected and gentle and compassionate around it. And that, to me, I think changes everything when you can get to that place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk a little bit about that because Justin Timberlake obviously just came out that he has Lyme disease.
Yeah.
And has been quietly suffering on stage, and he loves it so much, but he's in so much pain. But he still loves to be on tour, and it just goes to show how many people are silently suffering.
Yeah.
Also like yourself.
Yeah.
So it made me think about how often we overlook these struggles and how complex the personal journey can be with a chronic or autoimmune condition. So I know you shared just now, but you have Addison's disease. Mm-hmm. And which I'll admit, I really don't know that much about.
It's so rare. Most of my doctors don't know what it is.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Can you share a little bit about it and how did it show up? And
so I think first, just because something you said just kind of sparked something in me in terms of people loving what they do so much about kind of pushing through. In my opinion, I think a lot of us get to the places that we are chronically, and Lyme's disease is its own animal because it's something external. But Addison's is very autoimmune in the sense that autoimmunity for me, and the way that it's taught in Eastern medicine, it's that it's the body's inability to recognize itself anymore. And so I will say this very gently for people who are listening who may be going with it, but the way that I have always seen it for myself, and it's no fault and it's no blame, but it's the idea of like, was there at any point enough self-abandonment where the body just kind of got lost in it? And I believe fully that autoimmunity can be put into remission. I believe that it's reversible. I know Western medicine will fight me on that to the end.
Yeah.
But I have patients with Hashimoto's who have reversed it. I have a patient with MS who was in a wheelchair when I first met her and now has lesions that are disappearing on her MRIs. Like just wild, wild things that I've been privileged enough to see and to sit with. But for me, about 2.5 years ago, almost 3, it was early 2020, I just started feeling off. And I've always had a really good connection to my body in terms of being able to listen to signals. My energy wasn't quite where it was. I just wasn't feeling well. And I went to see my primary care, and he ran a bunch of labs and basically said, I just think you're really tired. We had just come through the first 2 years of COVID. Everyone in my practice, to no one's, disservice, was really struggling. Everyone was coming in crying. Everyone was coming in a panic attack. And I'm told often that sessions can feel like therapy a little bit. So there was just a lot of energy that was being held. There was a lot that had happened. We had lost a business partner, had passed during COVID. There was just a lot of big things that were kind of moved through. And he said, I just think you're exhausted. And I took it kind of for face value. And then a month or two later, I got the flu. And almost 2 days later, I woke up and it felt like my short-term memory was gone. Like I was forgetting business partners' names. And
oh my gosh,
I was literally standing up to get a glass of water. And by the time I stood up, was forgetting why I was standing up. So I was convinced that I had contracted some sort of like rare virus. And because my practice is functional, normally I would have gone in and just run my own labs and kind of done everything, but I assumed it was something that was bigger than me. And he ran all the panels and again said, like, I can't find it. There's nothing here that's coming up in any of these viral panels, COVID panels, nothing. And so I assumed that maybe I just was dealing with some adrenal fatigue, that I was really in burnout. And I did all of the things that I would do to patients. I was, seeing my therapist, and I was taking the supplements, and I pulled my schedule in. And a month or two after that, and it wasn't really changing. There would be some better days, but not great days. And probably October of that year, I woke up one morning and I couldn't support my body weight, and sat on the floor in my kitchen and thought, what is happening right now? And slowly over the course of an hour or two, it came back. And also around that time, my heart rate started to change, and it was beating at like 150 at rest.
My goodness.
So then he thought, well, maybe this is cardiology. So I got moved to a cardiologist who again said,
nothing's wrong with you.
Nothing's wrong with you.
So frustrating.
Saw another cardiologist, same thing. Nothing's wrong with you. And so we're a year into it at this point, and everything is starting to change now. I'm losing weight. I'm dizzy all the time, like true vertigo.
You feel terrible.
I mean, it's beyond terrible. I mean, anything that could start to break down is breaking down. I'm sleeping 12 to 15 hours a night, and I'm exhausted. I was truly filling out the paperwork to go on full disability. I had full joint pain, like my whole body felt like it was on fire most of the day. And every doctor kept saying, we don't know.
We can't find it.
So I had a discussion with him one day, and I said, if you're telling me you've looked at everything, truly everything, I'm going to go figure it out. And I sat down and I ran every alternative panel that I would normally run for patients. And I ran this comprehensive adrenal panel, and it flagged for Addison's. And I remember hearing about it for a second when I was in school. And basically what it means is your adrenals, which we usually think of as like fight or flight and cortisol, stop working. They basically stop producing cortisol. And while cortisol is important for stress, it's also important for life. There's cortisol that gets given to everything from the moment we get up in the morning to temperature changes. And if we get sick, we need cortisol. And so basically my cortisol levels were almost at zero. And I did a little research and found out that there's a lot of people that pass from it before they get it diagnosed, because it's a 1 in a million thing. It's considered a rare disease. And I'd caught it right in time, basically. And so found an endocrinologist who was magical, and she prescribed me medication sight unseen. I was like truly faxing my labs into every doctor in the city because everyone was on like a 3-month wait list to get in. And I knew that there was a small window that was closing. And her assistant, the head of endocrinology at Cedars, reached out to me that same day and put me on medication. It was cortisol replacement. And I woke up truly the next day symptom-free. It was wild.
Just by taking a cortisol replacement?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you basically had zero cortisol?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so most people, when they get to that place, it's called an adrenal crisis. It's when the body's need for cortisol gets so great and everything else gets so deficient. You go into shock and organs can shut down. It's a very scary, scary thing. And if you replace the cortisol, I'm making it sound a lot more simple than it is. It was basically a 2-year journey of figuring out what I needed to take to hike and what things look like if I get sick, and just all of the little things and the nuance that come with it. But it's a cortisol replacement, which is a steroid, a couple of times a day, every 5 hours.
So you still take those?
I will be taking it until this illness decides that it wants to be here or not.
And I'm sure, are you taking other supplements too to help?
I take so many supplements. I probably take like 15 supplements a day. Yeah. So going back to, we just went very, very roundabout with this. It was wild looking back on it. When I had met with my doctor, she was like, how were you still working? I don't understand. And I was only seeing a couple patients a day because that's truly all I could do. But I think there's this really incredible ability built into all of us to kind of push past our capacity when we have to just kind of shut down whatever is happening, whatever is going on, to just get through the things that we have to get through. But I also believe truly to my bones that those are the things that potentially push us towards autoimmunity. Like, we are doing these incredible things all day long. And for the entirety of my life, I was just driven by adrenaline. I was building businesses, and even when I was in school, I was working at night and I was traveling, and it just was like everything lent itself to wanting to do things to an extreme. My exercise was HIIT training. It just was a lot.
Too much.
But I think a lot of us are doing that, and it feels really good at the time because you have this adrenaline in your system and it's motivating you, and
then your body catches up
and
with
you're
you.
in it. But a lot of us are doing it well past our capacity, like our true capacity of what our body can do without having to recruit all of these stress chemicals. And so after I got diagnosed, I had an option. Like I couldn't find anyone in Los Angeles who had Addison's because it's so rare. So I was looking kind of at support groups online, and a lot of what I was seeing in support groups were people very frustrated with how their bodies were functioning, with how they couldn't do what they were doing before. And I remember going, this isn't going to work for me. Like, I can't fight against my body for however long that I'm dealing with this. And so I had to sit down and figure out what my actual capacity was. And it ended up being around 60% of what I was doing. And that is humbling in a lot of ways when you run a business and you have to figure out if you're comfortable pulling it in that much. And I did. And it took a lot of work and a lot of just constant, like, gentle affirmation and reassurance to myself that I was doing the right thing. But thank goodness I'm able to live fairly well with it most of the time. It's a disability for a lot of people in the United States. Like, people are on permanent disability because some people still can't get out of bed with it, even with the medication. And so I got very lucky. And I think having all of the training that I had, I just think intuitively it all kind of stacks for me. At least that's the way that I like to look at it.
Yeah.
That had I not been treating, had I not studied functional medicine, I don't know if I would still be here. So,
and I'm sure that really informs how you show up for others who have these conditions, because you've been through it, because you have one.
Yeah.
And wow.
Yeah. And it's hard. You know, I think a lot of people aren't willing. I don't know anything about the Justin Timberlake thing outside of the kind of buzz that was going on.
Yeah, me either.
But as someone who had to sit and kind of figure out where my pivots would be and what I would give up and what I would keep just to honor my body, I can't imagine what that looks like. But with that being said, to anyone who has an autoimmune condition, there is so much that we can offer ourselves beyond the medication that they give to people. I know for me, and it's a big piece of part of the pivot where I think things are going in terms of actually doing kind of longer term programs for people with autoimmunity. Often you see your doctor and they give you your medication and that's it. And to me, autoimmunity, yes, there's a bit of a separation from self, but there are endless things that dysregulate our immune system. There's a reason that autoimmunity is doubling, every couple of years. There's toxins and heavy metals and all of these food sensitivities and chemicals and things that we can actually do to take some of the strain off our immune system so that it can start working well again and not be constantly dysregulated by all of these other things it's trying to deal with throughout the day. And so I think there's so much hope for people who have those things if they get into the hands of the right people who have the information to just give extra support outside of just the diagnosis and the medication.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
It is, but it also doesn't have to be.
Right.
I think having someone hand you a medication and say, this is it, is one thing. Having someone say, come do a little bit of work to heal your body and to work on the nervous system, which is huge with, to me, all autoimmune conditions and just health conditions in general. Like, let's teach you how to clean your body out. Let's get rid of all of these things. Let's teach you how to get regulated and stop overwhelming your system all the time with pushing and pushing. I think worlds can change. And I've seen it happen in clinic over the last 15 years so many times. And in my own body. Like, every single time I go into my doctors, they're shocked by how the labs are moving and how things are changing. So I don't know if I've said this out loud, just outside of my close group of friends, but I have full intention on this reversing itself at some point.
That's great.
It could take 10 years. It could never happen. But my intention is just to move anything that's in the way of
out of the way,
my body healing. Yeah. Anything that's a barrier, let's just slowly over the course of a couple years, just move it and then just give it space to see what it does. Yeah.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
You should definitely get it out.
I'm working. I'm on it. I'm on it right now. Yeah.
So I want to dive a little bit deeper into your practice.
Okay.
and acupuncture.
Yeah.
So what surprises people most about their first acupuncture session?
I think how relaxed they can be.
Mm-hmm.
I think we call it an acupuncture buzz in the community, but treatments do a lot to kind of release all of these like feel good, happy chemicals. And most people get off the table feeling like they either just took a nap or that they had a cocktail. It lasts for
or Xanax.
Yeah, totally. It lasts for like 15 minutes. But I think most people go in, especially if they haven't had experience with acupuncture or needles before, thinking it's going to be uncomfortable. And it ends up being really, really relaxing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So are there any common myths or fears you find yourself always helping people unlearn?
I don't know. I think, again, there's a needle fear or just a curiosity around needles that I think people are always questioning or have some questions about before we start the treatment. But I think bigger than that, sometimes people thinking that one treatment is just going to magically fix everything. Sometimes it does. I have definitely seen things completely resolve in a session, but you're working with the body and you're giving it consistent reinforcement. And so often people need to understand that it's not magic. You're not coming in once and everything is fixed. You're working on the body consistently, sometimes over a couple weeks and sometimes over a couple of months.
Yeah, when I was coming in to see you, it was every week, I think, for months to really program my body to fix the cycle, to fix how uncomfortable I was.
But I remember you had shifts within the first month. I don't want to talk too much about what was happening. Just
for sure. No, I did. But I think it
took a couple months.
We kept working on it and then it got better and better.
Yeah.
There were shifts right away. Like I stopped getting the hormone headaches almost.
Yeah, within the first month.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
And that was a big one for me.
Huge. To not have a headache all the time?
Yeah, I was taking ibuprofen way more often than I'd like to do because I don't want to suffer in pain.
Yeah.
So what do you hope someone walks away feeling after a session? Relaxed, I guess.
Well, and more connected to themselves, I think. I know for me, I get treated once a week by a colleague.
I love that.
And there's always a feeling that when I come off the table of like, this is actually a state that I have the ability to get into. And yes, there's like a little support with needles to get there. But that reminder of like, this exists within me and I have access to this. Even when I think I'm really relaxed, there is another level of relax that you can get to. And I think gifting people that as kind of a baseline for what they can be aiming for is really powerful.
Agreed.
Yeah.
So is there anything that somebody can do after a session to deepen, to really support or deepen their healing?
Yeah, I think coming in at a time where you don't have 100 things to get back to is always helpful. A lot of my patients who are coming in, either dealing with, anxiety or depression or anything, and being able to go home and rest coming in towards the end of the day or on a day where their schedule's a little more open, always helpful.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So how do you blend traditional Chinese medicine with modern life? Do you incorporate any other healing modalities
in my practice or in my life?
I guess both.
Yeah, well, my practice is integrated. And so my first training, my master's is in traditional Chinese medicine, which is acupuncture and herbal medicine, but also just the study of Eastern medicine, which is very connected to the elements and the seasonal cycles of the year, which in and of itself is a beautiful learning. And then functional medicine, which is the practice of looking for all of the things that can dysregulate the body. Like you're looking for root causes. And so my practice is fully integrated in that way. So depending on what patients come in with, I'm often running labs. We're often, kind of looking at bigger things like heavy metals and toxins and adrenal panels and hormone zoomers and all of those things. My life, Chinese medicine, I think, is in all of it. We're doing teas first thing in the morning. I take Chinese herbs in capsules. I get treated once a week. I gua sha a couple times a week for my face, which I don't think people realize, very rooted in Chinese medicine.
I do that every night.
You do?
I just started doing it every night.
How do you feel about it?
I hope it's doing something.
Yeah.
I know that it helps with lymphatic drainage in the face, which I'm trying to be more consistent about, is draining my lymph. I dry brush before a shower. I like to sauna session and do it in my face. But I'm just getting into doing it in my face.
Well, and consistency is everything.
Right.
I mean, whether it's self-care practices, whether it's acupuncture, whether it's gua sha, there's a couple of colleagues that I have who almost exclusively do facial acupuncture, and they'll do these 14-day challenges and do these before and afters of people. And I am never not shocked by just the shift that can happen with 2 weeks of consistency.
Yeah. Well, I derailed you. Continue
That's okay.
on what you were talking about what you do for yourself.
So it's in everything. It's in the herbs, it's in the acupuncture, it's in the gua sha. Luckily, I work with 2 very dear colleagues in my practice. And so there are many days that I'll have them put cups on my back if I'm feeling like a little tight. So it's so good.
Yeah.
It's so, so good.
So what is your favorite pressure point, and is there one that we can do on ourselves to help release?
There's a lot of them. Yeah. And so acupuncture points, there's a little bit of a difference in terms of acupuncture and acupressure, in my opinion. When you're breaking the surface of the skin, you can stimulate so much more in terms of chemically and what happens in the body. But I think the 2 main ones are the one right between the thumb.
Here.
That's the headache point. And if you have a headache, it's very uncomfortable because you want to squeeze it and massage it as much as you can. Sometimes 5 to 10 minutes, but it will absolutely take it down.
Isn't that also the point that remember when I was having that issue with my neck?
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's the magic point. But
it wouldn't work as well. And when you put the needle in there, it almost relieved immediately.
Yeah. Yeah, that's just some of the magic points where people look at me like they've just walked into an alternative universe where they're just locked up in cancer, and you do 1 point and suddenly everything releases.
Yeah, I had
so special.
I think you did it 2 different times.
Yeah.
I woke up with a crazy neck pain, and I was suffering from it. I think it was just from sleeping on it wrong.
Sure.
I couldn't move my head. And then you put it right here, and it released.
You were like, what is happening right now?
What is happening? Literally.
But that's what you're talking about, like patient experiences, like giving people that little. I'm just obsessed with things like that you can't see and touch, like the magic in the world, and things like that where we just know so little about what our bodies can actually do. And Chinese medicine is really rooted in understanding the flow of energy and how things are connected, and little points like that. There's just a nerve that runs from the neck down to here. And so you can stimulate it
simple.
from truly is. And I like to think that there's some magic in there as well, but it's understanding it from both sides. But this point right here is the headache point. And typically if you have one, it's very, very tender and uncomfortable to massage, but you massage it for a few minutes and it can make a huge difference. There's also a point, I can't really see my legs, but at the top of the leg, that's a really good immune system point to massage. I'll send you a little photo of where it is.
Sweet.
But all of those are really good just for kind of daily practice.
Okay. So, and we just talked about integrative and alternative healing, and something I know that you started offering at your office and clinic is ketamine-based therapy. So for people who've only heard of ketamine as a horse tranquilizer or a party drug, it can sound a little intense or even confusing, but there's so much research on how it can be really powerful in the right setting. So can you talk a little bit more can you explain what ketamine is?
Sure.
And how it works in the therapeutic context?
Yeah. So just so everyone knows that I am not the one administering the ketamine treatments. I have 2 colleagues, but it's an offering that we have in the practice. Ketamine was initially how everyone thinks about it, as a tranquilizer, but through all of the research that they've done for many, many decades at this point, they're finding that it is a really good way to kind of grow back and heal damaged nerve connections in the brain. They did research. Some of the biggest research I know when Dr. Citrin, who's a colleague in the practice, was thinking about bringing it in was around this study that the 2 main modalities we've had for healing in the last 50 years were talk therapy and medication for people who were suffering with depression, anxiety, PTSD. And of all of those people, about 30% of people are considered non-responders, which means that they don't respond to therapy and they don't respond to medication, which is tragic.
Yeah.
So when in all of the research they've been doing around ketamine for all of these years, they did many clinical studies with people who are considered non-responders. And they're finding that almost 70% of those people are responsive to ketamine.
Wow.
Which in my opinion I think psychedelic medicine is probably some of the most potent options, potent research, potent advances we've had in many, many years. But ketamine in general, it's a very simple treatment. Patients come in and they get a lozenge and an injectable, and they're, watched and taken care of. And it becomes a very internal medicine where you just feel like you're in a blindfold and noise canceling headphones with a curated playlist. And it just allows the body to drop in and shut down for a moment.
So what kind of symptoms or conditions can it help with?
So in the United States right now, it's actually legal in most states for therapeutic purposes. Most of it is pain related, but most people who are coming in for nervous system disorders, for anxiety and for PTSD, for things where they've tried everything under the sun and it's their last hope. And it's been amazing to see patients who, truly are noticing a shift in one session. And I know when I was post-diagnosis and my nervous system was all over the place because having a dysregulated adrenal system felt like being anxious pretty much all the time. It was so powerful to do a session.
So you did it?
I've done.
How many have you done? Oh, a lot.
I've probably done a couple dozen at this point, but we're going back a couple years at this point. And so I did full treatments, and then, occasionally every few months, if I'm feeling like my body's dysregulated, I might pop in and do a treatment in the office.
Are there any other plant medicine treatments that you've done? Have you done ayahuasca?
For myself?
Yeah.
I haven't done Aya. It was on the list, but with the adrenals, we can't negate the medication, so it's off the table for now. Yeah. It's a little
Maybe when you've cured yourself.
I was supposed to go to Costa Rica the spring that all of this started, and thank goodness I didn't, because it could have gotten a little squirrely. But I've done a lot. I have mentors who are indigenous, leaders and elder women and tribeswomen, and I've done it all in ceremony. I have a lot of respect for indigenous medicines.
Have you done combo?
I have done combo. Yeah.
How many times did you do combo?
Just once.
Just once.
Yeah, but I loved it.
I know it's really painful, so you loved the feeling afterwards, I'm guessing.
I love the idea of thinking it as a way to clear the body out.
Right.
Yeah.
Because isn't it, obviously it's a plant, it's a frog toxin, right? Mm-hmm. And when it gets put inside of you, don't you feel like you have this insane flu?
You get sick.
Right.
For sure. Yeah, you get sick. But if you know that that's the whole point of it, when they talk about ayahuasca, a lot of the idea of what that purge actually is when you start to move energies in the body, when you start to unearth things, they can't stay in your system. So the teaching is that it's got to come out.
Right. So
in
it makes
one
you throw
way,
up.
shape, or form. Yeah. So if you, no one likes to be sick, but I think if you go in with the idea of a clearing.
Yeah.
It just feels like a clearing. And again, I really have such reverence for these medicines, but I struggle sometimes, I think, in terms of the way that they're just being, especially in Hollywood, the amount of people who are just casually in a house on a Friday night. And listen, to each their own, no judgment on anyone's perspective. But I think appropriation of these very lineaged medicines that are considered gatekeepers and wisdom, not seekers, but generators, I just believe really need to be held with the utmost regard and should really be done with people who are lineaged into those traditions, who can kind of sit and watch and hold space. So
I want to zoom out a little bit.
Yeah.
And talk about how you take care of yourself a little bit more.
Yeah.
So when it comes to food, I know you have this autoimmune disease. So when it comes to food, are there any things that you avoid or minimize because of it?
Yeah.
And is it based on intuition or research or clinical reasoning, or both?
Yeah. So when I was first diagnosed, I already knew that an AIP protocol existed. It's an autoimmune anti-inflammatory protocol. And so all foods basically, even if they're healthy, have the ability to create some sort of inflammation in the body or reduce it. So AIP takes out anything that has the potential to cause irritation or inflammation. And so it becomes very paleo-based, sweet potatoes, things like that for carbohydrates, but nuts and seeds come out, and gluten and dairy and alcohol and caffeine. So I did that for about 6 months when I was first diagnosed. I've never felt better in my entire life. And I've gone through stages of putting things back in, but I don't know. I just feel the best when I'm doing that. And I'll allow myself indulgences. I don't think that you can take things away from people completely and have them.
You still have to live your life.
You have to. I was just in Tahoe with my oldest friends from college, and I had a cocktail and I had some pizza, and I didn't feel great the next day. I think when you take them out and your body gets so used to just being fed the most nutrient-dense foods, you feel it so quickly. It's wild.
Yeah.
So I try to keep AIP. If I can, because I eat nuts and seeds sometimes, I'll do modified, so gluten-free, dairy-free. I usually try to do refined sugar-free, but I have a sweet tooth, so occasionally patients will like drop a donut in the office, and I'll do that. I will, yeah. But I feel it. Alcohol sparingly, but I was already kind of going in that direction, I think, before I even got diagnosed. It's a wild thing that happens. People get older and they start losing their, is it happening for you too?
I really rarely drink.
I just don't, unless I'm really craving it. If I'm at dinner and like a glass of wine sounds so good.
You have one.
But I don't crave it anymore.
No.
I don't.
It's sad. And it's not sad, actually. I'm really happy that I don't drink.
Yeah.
My husband still loves wine, right? And we have this wine collection.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have anybody to really drink it with. And his sister drinks with him and his mom, and there are other people. But I just mean, I live with him, and we're not opening wine on a Friday night or a Saturday night because I don't want it.
Yeah.
I had this, it happened, 4 months before trying for Roma. So it's been almost 2 years. It's been a year and a half.
Yeah.
And it was in the new year in January. And I was like, I'm going to go a month without drinking. Let's see how this goes. I'm really going to do dry January. And then I was like, I'm going to keep going in February because I feel great. I'm going to keep going. And then I tried alcohol and I was like, this doesn't taste good anymore.
I know.
And I actually don't like the way that it makes me feel anymore.
Yeah.
Because I even get anxiety that same night.
Yeah.
It's not just the next day. Like, I'm not going to get into the next day because the next day I feel horrible.
Me too. I feel depressed after 2 drinks. It's terrible.
It gives me this, it just makes me so anxious. And so it just trickled into the year. And then I got pregnant and I was like, well, I really can't drink now.
Yeah.
And then after I had her, I still don't want it.
Yeah,
and
it's beautiful.
People might say, oh, it's because you're breastfeeding. And I'm like, you know what? I don't crave alcohol. I don't want it.
There is so much research at this point, so much research that is pointing to the fact that if you are even consuming a glass of alcohol a day, and again, no judgment to people who do. I know that it very much is the most socially acceptable thing, and it's very ritualized for some people. In Chinese medicine, they use wine for everything, for soaking herbs and for whatnot, but that it actually is changing your brain chemistry like 1% a year. Like your brain is shrinking because of it. And I just feel like the beautiful thing about living in LA, because when I first got diagnosed and I started taking things out, I was looking for alternatives. And thank goodness, every single restaurant has a mocktail menu on it. Mm-hmm. There's just still ways to kind of feel like the social aspect is still there. And I don't even really go out anymore, to be honest. I would rather be at home, cozy with people at my house, kind of making a dinner than out in the world at this point. But there's so many ways to pivot that. I've had non-alcoholic wines that were just as delicious as regular wines, like really lovely. Just in the search of things. Mm-hmm. So we have options.
Yeah, or just for me, it's a sparkling water with ice and some sort of fruit juice. So give me some grapefruit juice or some lime or some lemon.
Yep. Watermelon. I have every alternative if people want them. I found all of the good options. Yeah. I don't think I've ever had a patient take alcohol out and not been profoundly
felt
affected.
Good about it.
Yes, 100%. 100%. But then the bigger question is, then why is the alcohol staying in? Is it, people use it as escape. People use it as ritual. And so that is a much bigger conversation about figuring out how you want to live your life. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And my husband drinks less because of it, and I'm very happy.
Yeah.
I'm slowly trying to transition him out of it, but again,
the wine cellar exists. It
exists, but also everybody has to make the decision for themselves, and I can't push somebody to stop doing something just because I don't do it.
Yeah.
It's their life. If they want to drink, right?
Yeah.
All of my friends drink for the most part. I'm probably one of the only ones that doesn't.
But do they care?
No.
Mine don't either.
At first, actually, though, I felt really vulnerable about it. I felt
interesting,
weird telling people that I wasn't drinking anymore because I loved drinking before.
Yeah.
And it's become so, I don't know, it's become so accepted and something that just everybody does that when someone doesn't do it, it's almost become a weird thing.
I also find that interesting because I never got that pushback from my friends, but I think it's because they knew kind of the bigger reason that I was eliminating it.
I didn't get the pushback either. I just felt weird telling people about it. Sorry, what were you saying?
No. I was going to say, I have heard this from patients before that their friends are pushing. And I said, truly, if your friends are pushing against this, then there might be something deeper that they have to look at. If someone is concerned with what's in your glass,
who cares?
Might be a little bit of a bigger opening for a discussion with them.
Everyone wants a drinking buddy, though. So if you're going to dinner and you're with a friend and they want to have a glass of wine and you don't, they might feel uncomfortable. But like, it's your choice. If you want to drink. There are other people in the restaurant drinking.
100%.
It doesn't need to be me. And I've not been in this situation. People don't care if I drink 100%. Or not. I'm just saying, if you are out there and you don't want to drink, it's totally fine.
Yeah.
Don't let someone else make you feel guilty for choosing not to put alcohol into your body.
I agree.
Yeah. So we talked a little bit about diet, but I guess are there any non-negotiables that you have to have?
In my self-care?
Yeah.
Yeah, so where were we back? Okay. AIP. So that decision was made. And then I think the bigger decision was just spending some time figuring out what really felt nurturing to me. And I'm lucky that I work for myself, so I was able to pull my business hours in. And I remember a year ago sitting down with a friend and saying, like, I'm going to throw something wild out here. Like, how much time would I need to do everything I would ever want to do to care for myself in the morning? Like, if I were to be able to have a slow morning, which is my favorite thing in the world, like I have zero desire and I don't have kids. So it gives me the luxury of doing those things. If I was able to spend, 20 minutes in bed after my alarm went off, just kind of like greeting the day and slowly getting up and getting out of bed. If I was able to do whatever self-care ritual I chose for the morning, because I don't have a checklist, but I have a dozen or so things that I'll just choose from depending on what my body feels like it needs. If I were to work out, if I, all the things, how long would it take? And it was 2.5 hours from up to showered to out the door. And I really try at least like 3 or 4 days a week to see if I can do that. Again, I can do it because I work for myself. Mm-hmm. But if I can't do the crazy amount of like full self-care, I need a slow morning. I need that 20 to 30 minutes by myself with my tea, just getting present in the world. I don't keep a phone in my room. That's like a hard self-care ritual for me. I think so many people get up and before they've taken a breath, before they've been conscious of the day, their brain is being scrambled by who needs what from them. That. A lot of people do. And it was hard when I first took that off the table. Your brain is just programmed. We've done that so many times in the same way that people pick their phone up 100 times a day. Like your brain is just used to doing it.
Yeah, I'm guilty of that.
It felt uncomfortable. And I think getting an old school alarm clock in your room, whatever that looks like for you, mine plays like nature sounds for me in the morning, which is very peaceful in terms of waking up to. But I don't pick up my phone in the morning until I am present and fed and showered and ready for the day and ready to kind of tend to other people's needs. Yeah.
Yeah.
So those are the two big ones, like half an hour, if not more, to myself, no phone until I'm ready to check in.
And what does thriving look like for you? Having those slow mornings, living your ideal day.
Again, I'm lucky, but I also think the Addisons, going back to being really spiritual, and I always kind of hesitate when I say it because sometimes people look at me a little strange, but there was like a gift in having to really look at my life and realize how much was out of alignment and how much I could really choose to do the second half of my life in a very different way than I was doing it the first half. It wasn't based on anything but presence and balance and connection and all of those things. And I think there's been a lot of thriving in the last few years. Had you asked me this a few years ago, it would be very different. But I hike on Sundays. It's like my day to just go be in nature by myself, usually. And I was sitting at the top of a mountain after I had hiked. And it was just one of those, it was early in the morning, like no one else was really on the trail yet. And I was on this rock and I could hear the birds and there was like a gentle breeze. And it was that moment where you just feel like so deeply connected to everything for no real reason, where you're just sitting there going like, I wouldn't want to be anywhere else than here right now. Like this feels perfect. And I think thriving for me at this point is being able to have as many of those moments where I feel deeply connected when it's not based on achievement or people or anything, and having those moments of just feeling so in tune with everything happens more when I am in tune with myself, when I'm being slow and compassionate and nourishing, and life gets easier in those ways where you kind of strip away everything that doesn't matter. And that is where I'm thriving towards right now.
That's beautiful. I love that so
Thank
much.
you. Yeah.
It's really important to be connected to ourselves.
And it takes effort.
And not everybody
It takes
has
effort.
the awareness or not ability, but desire.
Most people, I don't think,
Autopilot.
realize how out of balance they are.
They're living on
speaking
autopilot,
to myself as well, most of us are functioning, I think, in either functional fight or flight or functional freeze. And our nervous systems are just going. And people don't feel comfortable stopping for a minute because we don't know how. We've overwired our brains and we're running on stress chemicals. And the idea of just feeling comfortable doing nothing is just so out of attunement with how we've been living that it takes some conscious effort to get yourself back there. But you can, and it's life-changing. It's truly, truly life-changing if you can.
Before we wrap, I wanted to ask a few rapid fire questions for people to
Sure.
absorb.
Okay.
What's a simple, underrated practice for regulating your nervous system daily?
Ooh, 4-6 breathing. 4-6 breathing for 7 minutes is what the research says. 4 in through the nose, 6 out through the mouth. Try to expand into the belly. Will take you out of fight or flight in 7 minutes. And I've myself, when I was working on it, would set alarms in my phone twice a day to stop and just breathe and check in. And it will slowly help re-regulate you.
That's great. Yeah, you told me about that.
4-6 is everything.
What's a simple, underrated practice? Oh, no, I just asked that. Sorry. What's something patients are often surprised to learn about their own bodies?
I think how stressed most people are. Yeah. I really think most people just come in thinking like, I got it. I can handle this. And I think just because we're really good at navigating chaos doesn't mean that our bodies are not struggling in the midst of us navigating chaos really, really well. Yeah.
Yeah. And most unexpected or funny thing that's ever happened in a session?
Most unexpected or funny thing that's ever happened in a session. I wish I could come up with an exact, but I think...
You don't have anything? It's okay.
Wild things happen all the time in sessions. You know, I think walking patients through like inner child practices and those kinds of things and having people really have emotional breakthroughs on tables is always not unexpected, but always just so beautiful to witness. And I don't think people come in thinking that, they're getting acupuncture and we're going to do a quick little session before that. And those things are the most, not unexpected, but the things that are the most amazing.
And what's one book or one practice or tool that you love to recommend?
I have given a lot of patients The Untethered Soul. Have you read it?
Yeah.
It's just such a gateway book into learning how to be kind to yourself and be present with yourself. That's a good one. Practice or teaching. I've had so many teachings from so many people. And I don't know why my brain is saying this right now. Someone once said to me many years ago, the universe is neutral. And something about that
Stuck with you.
I say the universe is neutral to myself a couple times a week when I'm in a situation that has the ability to be either really frustrating or frustrating with some ease on the back end. This idea that like nothing is guiding anything outside of, yes, there's bigger things guiding everything, but that our own personal decisions and how we navigate things. The universe is not working for you, against you. Like it is reacting to what you are doing in the world. It's neutral. So it helps me make decisions that are maybe a little more grounded and a little more informed than just kind of being like, universe, why did that just happen right now? It's neutral.
I love that.
It's neutral. Yeah.
That's a great one.
Thanks.
And is there any last piece of advice or insight that you'd love to leave people with?
That in the midst of everything we do throughout the day, like, you have to matter. Part of being able to be in the world and be a mother or a parent or someone who's knocking it out of the park in the world, like, you have to be a priority in that list. Mm-hmm. And that can look very simple to start, or it could be something that's a little more nuanced, but prioritizing yourself is the way that we all move forward with our health.
I agree.
Yeah.
I'm all about that. I have to show up for myself first before I can show up for anybody else. Because if I don't show up for myself, then everything else suffers because I don't feel
always
good.
Always.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm in agreement with that one.
Thank you.
And if you could go back, what's one thing you would tell your younger self?
Oh my. Someone asked me this the other day and I was hysterically sobbing.
Oh.
Just like, I love her and she's doing such a good job.
Mm-hmm.
And also she can slow down. Like, it doesn't all have to happen right now.
Fast, yeah.
She can trust the things will unfold the way that they can, and she doesn't have to work so hard. Yeah. Oh, gets me every time.
Yeah.
Yeah, those versions of ourselves that we're just trying so hard for reasons that we figure out at some point. But
yeah,
just we wish we could just love them and say, like, it's okay. Like, you can just show up.
You have to do that work too. I was working with my life coach yesterday, and we did some inner child work.
It's the best.
It is. It makes you really feel, right? Yeah. Because there's this defender self that's defending the little girl.
Yeah.
And speaking up, and that's where the trigger comes from at times. And so when I'm triggered, it's the defender.
Always.
And that doesn't feel good. So once you understand how you can feel or how that little girl is feeling and you let yourself feel that, the trigger can go away.
That is when we were talking about magic happening on tables. Inner child work I've seen done a couple of different ways, but that feeling into the body with sensory and giving it a story and going in, kind of honoring it is, I think, probably the most powerful practice I've learned and all of the teachings I've learned. And anger is normal. Anger is the most potent and easy way that we defend ourselves. So of course, when we've had hard experiences, triggers are anger-based. It's a defense mechanism. Mm-hmm. But under anger for me is always some sort of grieving or some sort of sorrow that has to be moved through.
Yeah. Once I moved it, I go, oh, in these moments, instead of feeling triggered, I should just let myself feel that sadness or feel that feeling of being unseen or whatever it is that she's feeling or felt in those moments. And it's not as simple as I'm saying it, right? Because it involves doing this whole process.
But it's so easy, though. I've talked to my friends so many times. The actual work is so easy.
Yes.
Like when people talk about doing the work, the practices are simple. It's just having enough consciousness to be able to catch when you're in it. And for me, the win isn't to eradicate triggers. I don't think any of us can actually get rid of triggers. It's having the trigger and then having the ability to stop and go, okay, I am out of my body right now. Mm-hmm. What can I do to just sit down and do this 5-minute exercise that suddenly makes me feel grounded and present and peaceful and soothed and seen and heard. And it's so easy to do. I just wish everyone, if we were taught that from the time we were kids, how to do inner child work, we'd be living in a very different place right now.
I think people feel overwhelmed, though, to even try to do that process because they don't want to feel
100%
that sadness or whatever it is that's underneath it all.
Yeah.
Because they're acknowledging certain traumas.
Yeah, feelings are very hard for some people.
That can feel really challenging for someone to want to step into.
Well, and for some people, feelings weren't safe when they were younger, depending on how they were raised. It's very storied for a lot of people. And often when we start doing that work, and it's the same with inner child work or acupuncture or psychedelic therapies, which to me are not appropriate from some people who haven't dipped their toe in the pool yet. Sometimes it's just going in at 5% and just like touching on that feeling for a minute so that the body can get a sense of what that feels like and coming out of it. It doesn't have to be these huge practices. It's slowly making it safe to feel your feelings, but that is the gateway into and through everything. everything. Yeah. I love that you're doing that with your coach.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
It's really, really helpful.
Yeah.
And then one more thing that I want to leave you with. And looking ahead, is there something that you're doing now that you hope your future self thanks you for?
I think everything I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
I look back at last year and I very quietly in 2024 pulled everything in about like 80%. I did the minimum so that I could really focus on my body and get a clear path forward. And I would hope and would trust that everything I'm doing for my body right now and for my spirit and for my connection and for my healing, regardless of what it looks like 10 years down the road, whether the Addisons is still here and we're living beautifully together, or whether she's a she to me, decides to leave because I've learned the lesson that she's been brought to teach me. I think all of it stacks. I think all of it is gonna pay off. That's not why we do it. I think we do it because it just brings us more peace. But I'm hoping that she's cheering me on. Yeah.
Yeah, she is.
I know.
May we carry what we need, release what we don't, and stay open to the magic that is unfolding. Yeah. Thank you for sipping your matcha and sharing your heart with me today.
Thank you, Mama.
I appreciate it.
I appreciate you.
Thanks for listening to No Matcha, No Mama. If you loved the episode, share with a friend, leave a review, or just come say hi on Instagram. My handle is @DinaDL. If you'd like to connect with my guest, Sarah Norvilas, her Instagram is just her name, Sarah Norvilas, and you can connect with her on her website at MerakiWellness.com. And remember, thriving takes intention. See you next time.